Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laurence and I post art videos every 2 weeks. I try. And today we're going to play around with Neocolor 2. I want to do a landscape, obviously, and I would like to try out some new techniques, mainly wet on wet, because I feel like it's something I do a bit less than usual. So I just want to play around with that, and I'm going to draw a winter landscape in my sketchbook. So let's go. First of all, we're going to select our colors. I'm going to put our reference image here. So you're welcome to take a screenshot and follow along if you want. It's going to be a pretty simple image. I just want to warm up today. I don't want to do anything too complicated. The image we're going to draw today is an image that I'm going to draw again in gouache, but in a separate video. I kind of like doing the same images over and over again just because I do it with different mediums, or I try a different technique, and it removes the pressure of starting from scratch by staying in something that I know a bit more, but it allows me to explore different things. So I appreciate doing that from time to time. So I think we're going to stay in this palette here just because this is the blues, the cool tone colors. And I want to keep it pretty monochromatic, so I think I'm going to choose 2 or 3 colors, not more. I want a dark, and I want the lightest tone, and maybe something in between. So for the darkest, maybe I could try the royal blue. Or I could go with like a green. Now let's try royal blue. It's a color that I haven't used a lot. So we're going to go with that. For the lightest color, we could use maybe this one, a light cobalt blue hue, or sky blue. It's not very light though. Okay, so let's select light cobalt blue hue just for some highlights, or we'll see what we end up doing, but we're going to go with these 3. As you saw, I have the full Neocolor 2 set, but I'm going to keep the color palette limited today. And I'm going to work in a pre-prepared page in my Stillman Birn Mixed Media Sketchbook. This is from the Zeta series. So this is a page that I prepared with some leftover watercolors that I had in my palettes. Let's take this for example. Whenever I have a palette like this and there's some colors, sometimes I'm just gonna put the colors, make some blobs like this on pages in my sketchbooks, and then on top I'm going to paint or draw. It gives me a good base, and it always gives me interesting results in the end. So let's do that. So I'm gonna let you know what I do. I have my colors here. I have some brushes here in case I need them. I probably will later. And I have some water to mix my colors. I have my reference image on the side right there. You don't see it, but I'm going to base my colors on this. And so for now, what I'd like to do is do a little sketch. So maybe I'm going to start with my lightest color just to see where I'm going. So maybe I'm just going to draw the horizon line. Well, this color is not very clean, but that's okay. So let's say my horizon line is here. Let's say we have the trees that start here. I just want to put some reference points quickly, and things can move after that. It's just easier for me to know where to place everything. But whenever my initial sketch is done, I'm going to add some darker colors because it's going to help me see where things are going, especially with this background. It's a bit hard to see what goes where. It's a bit hard to know. So I'm just going to draw quickly. So we have a little river, or at least a little body of water right here. It does a little S at the top there, so very important to draw it in. We are going to have some layers, so some trees here, and then we have another layer in the background. Well, we have a few layers in fact. So yeah, just placing stuff quickly. And this is gonna be our final layer. And then we'll have some trees. So what I'll do is I'll put some darker areas first, just so I know where the trees are. I don't want to go too far up in the sky, because maybe I'm going to put a light color in the sky, or yeah, maybe just a little bit. So I'll work on the sky in a little bit later. So this is the tree layer here, and then we'll have some more trees in the background. And then we have our little river. That does a little S. So it goes on that way a little bit. So let's do the fun part and draw the river in. Ooh, let's try some wet on wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my Neocolor too, like this. Wet it. And then, it's not really wet on wet, it's more just wet because my paper is not wet. But it gives us a nice effect. It's very fun to use. Since I'm working like this, I'm going to put a paper under this page, because if the paper gets wet, then maybe whatever's under could reactivate. The drawing that is under this one is not a beautiful drawing, so I wouldn't mind if it got ruined, but it's just, I think, a nice habit to take. If you work on in your sketchbook, you could do that also. Now, let's do a little layer, a little pale layer in the sky. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my palette color. I'm just going to lightly draw like this. Sometimes when I prepare a page already, I don't even do anything in the sky because I like to see this texture. But since I'm using a very pale color, I'm still gonna see the texture underneath the colors that I put in. So that's why I'm doing this, but otherwise I would probably just leave it as is, because I really like the movement and it abstracts the sky. It's something I enjoy. But yeah, let's just see what it's gonna do. So I'm going to grab a brush, and now I'm gonna wet the sky. I'm not using a tape border because this sketchbook does not get along with tape very much. It's something I found out, unfortunately, but usually I like to put tape, but yeah, not today. So we're gonna wait for this to dry, and when it's dry, then we can add more on top. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on this snow. So I really wanna use our intermediate color. There is some shadows around the water because it's heavy snow. So this is gonna get drawn in. I just wanna wait for this part here to dry a bit more, but all of this is gonna get drawn in. And then we have a little bit of shadows here. It's a very harsh sun. So there's lots of light parts and good contrast. So this is something I really like in my images. So let's draw some little shadowy area. So the snow is uneven. That's why we get to see these little shadows. And there are more shadows here. More here. We have some shadows under the trees here, so we can draw them quickly. This is what I like with my Neocolor tools, is that you can go very fast. they don't even feel like real art supplies kind of. So I feel like for me it removes the pressure of getting everything perfect, or even though they totally are real art supplies. But for me, it's just a matter of like perception, I think. For me, I see them as toys, kind of. I play with them a lot. I experiment with them. So yeah, for me it's fun. Very fun to use. Let's add a little bit of shadow in the snow. We have our snow layers, so we're going to draw them just so that they are a bit clearer to me. And I see that the kind of S there goes back, kind of layer of snow like this. So we're gonna have a tree that starts from here, and then another one that starts from here, and the other trees are going to be in the background. So maybe we could start working on our background trees, just because now it's dry enough. So we have some trees that go a bit higher than the others. All of these trees are evergreen, so no need to draw any leaves. Let's just wet this pencil a bit, this crayon, and add some different textures. And the trees that are closest are a bit higher. They're not that high in the reference image, but I just like to exaggerate some shapes, so that's what I'm doing right now. And there's another one here. Let's say that it goes pretty high. I kind of like the texture of the dry crayon to do the top of the tree, so I'm just gonna, oh, it's wet. I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna add some more tree bits higher here in this region. All these trees here. So we have a few that are pretty high, so I'm gonna draw them first because I don't want to overdo it and have a bunch of high trees when there's a bit less than that in the reference image. Then you have one here that is very high, and the rest are all shorter than this one. All right, I'm gonna add some lighter areas here as well. And now let's draw the trees. So I'm trying to mix the lighter with the darker areas. Still want to keep things separate though, but I think I can always add some lighter areas on top if I feel like it needs more. And now adding some details in these trees in the background. All right, then let's add some more texture here in the background, like I said I would, with a dry pastel. Let's wait for this to dry before we work on it more. Now I want to focus on the snow. The lightest color I'm gonna get is this paper, so I can darken some areas with my lightest color. If I put this area all blue like this, it looks a bit darker than here. So I'm working on some shadows. So this color can be my lightest, but also not my lightest, depending on where I put it. So I'm playing around with that. Like I can add some highlights here. So I'm just gonna work on accentuating some shady areas. So I go from one area to the other without any specific plan. I just take a color and I place it wherever my intuition says it should go. And I will jump from one color to another also, and I don't need to do anything in any specific order really. So let's use a brush. And here, for example, in the tree area, I thought that there were too many white spots because these trees are all pretty dense, so there shouldn't be any white left in between the trees, not this low. So I could have just added more color with my pastels, but also I can use my brush like this and treat the pastels as paint and move it around a bit. Like here, this is too light. And with a light brush, I could just add some trees in the background, some very light trees. Like this, and add different layers. Now, let's move this around a bit. I want to add some more darkness here. This should be wet already, but I'm still going to wet my pastel to have even more texture. I feel like this glides on super well when you wet them. They just glide on, and especially when the paper is already wet, it's very pleasant to use. My mic battery died, but here I'm fixing some areas of the water that were a bit rough. This is something that you can do with your Neocolor tools as they are water soluble. So you can always add some water and at least try fixing some of your mistakes. For me, I feel like it worked well in this instance. After that, I worked on the water a little bit more, trying to merge the shade from the snow with the water just so it would be a bit more natural, a bit more seamless, and I added some color variation in the water for the same reasons. Now I'm using the other end of the pastels, the sharper end, to hopefully create some branches in the snow. In the reference image, there is a lot of branches coming out of the snow everywhere, but here I decided just to place a few because this is my image. I can do whatever I want with it. So that's what I did, but unfortunately this method proved to be difficult to use because it was very imprecise and I had a lot of difficulty to create nice looking branches. So I tried to go back on some areas, but since it was so imprecise, I just ended up adding more branches and not fixing the problem. I decided to go back on top of the branches with a fine detail brush. I was able to smoothen out their look and in some instances create bigger trunks, so it would be a bit more natural and it would allow me to merge some of these extra branches. So in the end, the result wasn't too bad, but I think the thing that I should have done was use this brush all along and pick up the color on the pastel directly and then do the branches with the brush. Well, you live and you learn. I'm not too mad about the end result. In the end, I think I was able to salvage these branches. So this is a shorter video this week. It's always fun to rediscover some old art supplies or to do a little warm-up. For me, it's more of the former. I'm focusing on watercolor pencils these days for our current project, so it's fun to play with my Neocolor tools again. I used to use them a lot just a few months ago, and they make me feel so playful, so it's always a fun time for me. I also really like the effect of the prepped pages. I like what it did in the sky and in the snow, and I feel like I should do that technique more often. Before I finished this drawing, I decided to add some darker colors just to fill in some gaps, because as the Neocolor tooth dried, I realized that there was still some uneven patches, stuff I wanted to fix. So I added some darker colors and some highlights in the trees, and after that the piece was finished. So that's it for this week's video. Don't hesitate to leave me questions, tips, or comments in the comments below, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye.